The hype is over.
What is going on, and what is Nintendo doing to make it worse?
This is Zach.
And John Paul.
And we are
the Sunshine Gamers. People were excited when they announced that the Switch 2 was having a direct this week, but ever since, and every single day, more and more news has been trickling out while Nintendo has continued to be silent. So, Zach, first of all, how do you feel about this whole situation?
Well, first I was really excited about it, but certain things were missing, which pricing, for example, physical games of what a Switch 2 cartridge looks like. Now we're starting to see all these things coming out of the woodwork while Nintendo is staying silent about it.
Now, when Nintendo does a direct, see, gone are the days of when they would do this at an E3 in front of a live crowd. Everybody could get excited, and then people could start demoing everything right there. These directs were supposed to bring everything directly to us, and I think that was the problem here.
I fully agree with you. But why don't we do this? Why don't we do a little recap, and then we're going to get into something that's really important, something I really believe, and we believe, everybody is missing.
You have President Donald Trump. You have the art of the deal, pretty much. Ever since the 1980s, even through now through his campaign trail, he's always talked about how the United States is getting hosed in international trade. And he said, I'm going to do something about it. I want to try and bring back manufacturing jobs. I don't think what's happening to us is fair. And there is a video that's going around talking about when he was on Oprah back in the 80s where he was saying the exact same thing before he even had any aspirations about being president. Well, I'm going to tell you something. Nintendo themselves is doing a terrible job of trying to present the deal of the Switch 2 to the current Switch owners and the consumers. Because, first off, they just paused pre-orders, saying because it was current economic conditions, which pretty much that is the Trump tariffs. But I almost feel like Nintendo decided to use this mildly as an excuse to say, we need to take a pause because we made some pretty bad mistakes here in the middle of Direct. And first thing in this indirect direct, where they didn't even directly talk about a price, the first thing they have showed us is that this is going to be a very expensive system. Let's see what we have here. You got to get a new system. They revealed a camera attachment where you have to get a new camera if you want to play the games with the camera the way they showed it. New Joy-Cons if you have to have additional Joy-Cons. A new Pro Controller. That's if you want to have the mapping feature, as well as the C button for the chat. You got to get that new Pro Controller. You also need the Nintendo Online membership in order to do the Nintendo Chat, which they are going to be offering what looks like almost a year of free Nintendo Online membership for the chat. Otherwise, you're going to have a paid online membership. They're including the Gamecube in the extra version of the online. But if you want to fully enjoy it properly, you have to buy the GameCube controller, which right now it's only available through Nintendo's website. So you add all this up, plus sales tax. But Nintendo, when they do these type of things, these aren't things they just come up with. They have to plan these months and years in advance. So even though they probably waited till this year, till after the presidential election, to see what the economy was going to be like, it still is expensive. And the games, $80 for a physical game, $70 for some physical games like Donkey Kong.
Well, here's something else. Nobody knew what the prices were until after the Direct. People had to go on to the Nintendo site to see the prices of the systems, to see the prices of the games.
Or retailers, exactly.
Or also they had to look and see, wow, Bravely Default, it's $40. Then they're looking at, how come Tears of the Kingdom? How come
and I
Breath
think
of the Wild? Why are they expensive games when these are already re-releases, but they're going, even though they're going to be enhanced, how come they're just expensive as brand new Mario Kart and Donkey Kong games?
Well, you just brought that up even about, like, for example, Tears of the Kingdom. Tears of the Kingdom was a more expensive Switch game. Well, now the Switch 2 version is even more expensive at $79 for the enhanced edition, which That brings up another thing about just today, people were talking about, are you even getting the full enhanced game on a cartridge?
That's right, because on a UK
As I like a customer service, right?
A vendor of the customer service under that said that when you get a game purchasing Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom, the Switch 2 cartridge box, that it says on the box, you are getting a Switch 1 game and a digital code to download that gives you the enhancements.
Yeah, you actually look at the box, includes the Nintendo Switch game and the Nintendo Switch 2 Edition Upgrade Pack. Upgrade Pack also available separately.
Yeah, and that's happening for the Zelda games. It's happening for Metroid Prime. It's happening for some other games. Now, it's not happening for Mario Kart. It's not happening for Donkey Kong.
Because those are Nintendo Switch 2 exclusive games.
But look at this. Bravely Default. It's a digital game.
Well,
There's
that's
no
actually,
hard game.
there is no hard game. That's like a key card. That's another thing. See, there's all these things that were popping out. How you have these upgrade systems where it's possible that it's not even on the cartridge. You have games that are just going to be pretty much licenses. You insert the cartridge and it gives you a license to use that game. It's like, what are we doing here?
I understand that people are frustrated right now. We saw that on the Nintendo tree, that when it was being displayed in YouTube, everybody kept commenting, drop the price, drop the price, drop the price. Well, I understand. Look, systems are going to be expensive.
Inflation,
games could be expensive.
Cost of living, all factors into everything.
Now, in retrospect, we all know that at times it starts off expensive and eventually the price will eventually come down. It does that all the time. However, there is something else that's going on here that I think now we need to address.
And this actually came out before the Nintendo Switch 2 Direct, before anybody talked about how expensive everything was. This was something that we noticed right off the bat. Nintendo pretty much is talking about a new way to game, which is pretty much digital gaming.
Right, and it actually came out in the last Nintendo Direct for the original Switch. It was the week before. And this was the Nintendo Virtual Cards. I watched some YouTube videos of some people who, no one really had anything surprisingly negative to say about it. They all thought, oh, this was cool. It makes it look like you have a physical copy. You know, kind of talking about it in a positive manner. As soon as I saw that, my eyes opened and one thing came to me. The end of physical gaming is upon us.
Nintendo always seems to do something, and the industry seems to follow. When it came to motion controls, everybody followed Nintendo when it came to motion controls. We know that Nintendo games rarely go down in price, and Nintendo was really nonchalant about saying, hey, you know, we're going to be doing something called virtual game cards. So guess what? You can put this virtual card, you can have it on your regular Switch or Switch 2 system. But guess what? If you have a second system through your same account, you'll be able to transfer it from one to the other. But of course, you need to make sure you have there's always asterisks that are involved in all of this. You got to make sure you got to have a wireless connection. You need to make sure you have for the first time. You got to make sure that you have internet. You got to make sure. I mean, I could even pull this up, which speak a little bit more here. But it was talking about even with the family plan that you can lend games, almost like a sharing plan.
That's the whole
which
thing.
People have done with other systems.
Somebody has the game card, the virtual game card. You have to have somebody a part of your family account, and they have to be listed. You take the game cartridge, the virtual game cartridge, and you give it to that person. They have it, but they only have it for 2 weeks. And then all of a sudden, it comes back to you when it's done. Something else that's very interesting. Nintendo is going to make all digital games virtual game cards. They're going to upgrade the system. Now, they said they were doing it later in April to do this. So, this new concept of the virtual game card is to make us think we have something physical when in reality it's only digital, And the major problem is that when it's gone, it's gone. If we were to lose it, it's gone unless we can re-download it. If Nintendo suddenly were to be gone tomorrow, everything digital with Nintendo is completely gone from them to us. Now, of course, you can find emulations, you can find archive sites, things of that nature, but when you're talking about what you purchased yourself would be gone. In a way, it's kind of like a streaming service. All of a sudden, a couple months later, you want to say, oh, I'd like to go watch that movie again on Netflix. You go on there. It's gone. And you're like, where is it?
It's gone.
Now, you're still paying for the service, and yes, they're going to give you something new, but because you don't own that service, you don't own those movies, when Netflix says it's gone, it's gone. That's what happened with Xbox with their live arcade. Sometimes those games didn't become available anymore to download.
Yeah. Really, it's just changing the language of another digital game. In fact, you even go to their website and it shows digital games with an arrow to virtual game cards. And you know, when you were talking about even going to other sites or going online to emulate, that is another thing too when it comes to the Switch 2. It has been confirmed that the Switch 2 uses a hybrid form of emulation in order to play Switch games. Because unlike previous systems where you had the DS and you had the 3DS, where there was backwards compatibility, that's because the 3DS actually had hardware from the DS. When you had the Wii and the Wii U game system had hardware that the Wii had. The Switch 2 does not have any hardware that the Switch has. So they actually had to do a form of emulation, and they're testing thousands of games as we speak right now. And you can go on their website, and there's 2 PDFs that talk about games that have problems at startup during their emulation, and games after startup that have issues. Because I'll tell you, if Iwata-san was still alive, and if Reggie Fils-Aimé was still involved with Nintendo, I don't believe this ever would have happened. So Zach, with all that said, do you think that physical gaming will be fizzled out eventually, or it's probably going to take a little bit longer? It's not that tomorrow physical gaming will be gone. Yeah. Will there always be physical gaming? Yes, there are companies and industries out there that will still make right now it seems games. Like a lot of it is limited runs of certain games. But look, the most important thing is understand what you're getting into. No matter how you feel about anything, the initial hype and excitement for the system is over. I hope that Nintendo reconsiders some of the choices that they made, like how they wanted certain things to be very expensive, how they need to redirect their message so that it is concise and clear. This is how much the system's going to be. This is how it's going to be available. This is what it means for digital cards. This is what it means all in one place. Because if you go on their website, even with the information they're offering, there are all these asterisks. There are all these little footnotes and endnotes. And you know something? In their direct, they were not direct with us, the consumer and the fans. And as a result, there are a lot of questions, some misinformation, and a lot of fear and anxiety that could have been taken care of if you had a leader like Iwata-san or somebody, a liaison like Reggie Fils-Aimé that had been in that experience with Nintendo before and said, we've got to be up in front with our fans and the consumer. Nintendo, you're better than this. Even to the point where the pack-in game isn't even a pack-in game. That digital tour where you have to pay for it. Your message of your expensive system, your digital games network, your new terminology, and how you presented the information is what the real issue is. We want to hear back from you. What do you think? Do you think this is the beginning of the end of physical games? We believe in Nintendo. We look forward to the future. Yeah. But now they're doing it again. They're setting the precedent. Hey, you're not going to have a physical game, but you're going to have a virtual game, and we're going to treat it like a physical game up to a point. And that's so far, unless they tell us, oh, by the way, this virtual game card that you have, it's like your own, and you could, if it's something you own that you can control, that's one thing. If it's not,
And that's something we have to think about down the road, and then you make your choices on how you adjust in playing your games for the future.
Yeah, there's a lot more that we can talk about, but I think we talked about pretty much the facts and our opinions, first of what's going on and what we think. So, are you excited still for the Switch 2? Are you going to pre-order it, whether you're in another country? Do you think that this will hopefully come to an end soon? And when it does come to an end, will this be a system that you're going to try to get at launch?
Exactly. Well, thank you so much for hearing from us tonight. So this is Zach.
And this is John Paul.
We're the Sunshine Gamers.
Signing off.